Hi everyone. In this video interview, we're going to have a look at quite a major point within existence, and that is how human beings create and manifest themselves into demonic state possessions to such an extent that they drive themselves into the act of killing and violence, both within the context of physical direct abuse to the point of actually killing another human being, and within the context of sexual abuse as rape and molestation. So we are going to walk you through how it is that we in fact create, program, and manifest ourselves as killers, as rapists, through and within thoughts, memories, and reactions within the mind consciousness system. And we're going to use two specific examples to show how this process manifests within the mind consciousness system through and within time, accumulation of events and sequences of playouts. And the two specific examples that we're going to be using is one example of a human being manifesting themselves into a killer, and a human being manifesting themselves into a rapist, and what and how within that the mind consciousness system interplays with ego, superiority, and God consciousness to manifest that total demonic state possession as what one becomes within that very act of driving oneself to killing another being, to raping another human being. So the first example that we're going to utilize is a starting point of how this whole process initially begins within the mind consciousness system. And the most prominent point within society as a whole where such thoughts and experiences and reactions lead to the starting point creation of manifesting oneself into a killer is movies, conversations, displays, books, any societal manifested point that would create a activation within self, within one's mind consciousness system. So let us take the example of one watching a movie, and within the movie the actor is portrayed as a very independent, stern, strong, superior, powerful man, and this actor within a scene makes the statement, "Kill the man." And just how that actor is standing and speaking and expressing himself within that statement resonate within self in generating a particular adrenaline rushed reaction because of that power, superiority, strength stance that man portrayed within speaking that sentence. And within oneself, what is in fact generating that reaction is one's ego that is equal to and one with that superiority, powerful stance that actor portrayed within the movie. So one, from a resonant energetic reaction perspective, could relate to that actor from the context of desire, of desiring that power, that superiority, that stance, that independence of position and status that seems to seep through his total human physical body. Now, why it is that one's ego would resonate within the context of that portrayed actor is the very manifestation of ego within the mind consciousness system is the domain of superiority, of God consciousness, in and as which we manifest, participate in, and create our basic survival mechanism of competition, of competing with other human beings within our world and our reality to always be more than, to always be better than, to be noticed, to get attention. And so the basic inherent nature of ourselves as ego within the context of superiority is for survival in being able to always be more superior than other human beings. If one have a look at the basic nature of how we participate in ego and superiority within our mind consciousness system, we'd always diminish, inferiorize, make less than, gossip, be nasty, be vengeful towards other human beings, and within that context make ourselves better within ourselves, within ego superiority, and speak ourselves into superiority within our mind consciousness system. So within that is why such a actor within a movie scene speaking the statement, kill the man, and that superiority power manifested resonance would resonate with one's ego. And what manifests in that moment as the being see that scene and hear those words, it immediately imprint within their mind consciousness system, as the mind consciousness system imprints external information from reality into itself with every moment one blink one eyes. So that very moment is imprinted as a live memory now within one's mind consciousness system. And because one had a particular affinity towards that particular stance of power and superiority, that memory starts replaying within one's conscious mind. And all you're hearing over and over is, kill the man, kill the man. And I mean, sometimes you'd even go so far as communicating it with your friends, your family, sharing with them. Did you see that scene? Man, you're so fucking awesome. You're standing there. That absolute power stance. He's such a fucking excellent actor. Kill the man. I mean, then you'd even replay it, re-speak it, practice it. And what you're addicted to within that is the power and the superiority. But now you have linked that power and superiority towards the statement, kill the man. And it replays and replays over and over again in your conscious mind, that statement. And eventually the picture goes and it's just the statement that goes, kill the man, kill the man. And through time eventually it is then forgotten because you now move on within your world and your reality. However, the mind consciousness system as yourself did not forget that moment. What happens is within the context of forgetting is the moment, and as you continue replaying that scene, that statement, either internally, speaking about it externally, more and more what you're doing is equalizing yourself to that power superiority stance of that actor within the context of the statement, kill the man, because you've connected kill the man to superiority power. And the more and more you replay it, what's happening in your mind consciousness system within ego is it starts manifesting and integrating into your total human physical body, where that moment of that memory resonate within you, within your mind consciousness system. The more you start likening yourself towards it, you're building yourself up to that power, to that superiority. And eventually the context of that memory starts liquefying as information, starts merging with your resonance within your human physical body, and there you imprint yourself as that actor within your ego, and you become that point that says, kill the man, and you become that superiority and that power experience. Once that happens, the mind consciousness system integrates that information into your unconscious mind. Within the unconscious mind, it hibernates for a moment. What happens is the mind consciousness system takes that moment, that experience of that superiority, of that power, extracts within your unconscious mind everything within you that exists within the context of killing, power, and superiority. It takes that resonance, imprints it into your unconscious mind, into your human physical body, and it starts resonating. And as it resonates, it starts looking for everything within your unconscious mind throughout your life that consists of and exists as and can be equalized to killing, superiority, power, strength. And as time goes by, and once the mind consciousness system has accumulated everything that it could in terms of that context, it starts uploading it into your subconscious mind, into a personality manifested structural system. Remember, in terms of the mind consciousness system, it always has personality primary platform structures at the ready to be able to upload information into it to manifest personality structures in which you have actual individual thoughts, backchat, internal conversations, and reactions within a particular specific personality manifestation context. So remember what we explained in terms of ego is the platform in our mind consciousness system, an entity within the mind consciousness system in which and through which we create ourselves to always be superior, more than, within and towards human beings in our world and our reality. Now, with this personality system being uploaded into the subconscious mind, from all of that information that accumulated within the unconscious in relation to killing, killers, superiority, and power, it developed into an actual personality manifestation, where one will now have actual conscious mind thoughts, internal backchat, and reactions that start coming up that is now more in the context of killing, of violence, of aggression, and within that one will more and more start feeling power, start experiencing superiority in an actual adrenaline rushed experience. And now suddenly this human being starts experiencing conscious mind thoughts of, for example, someone angers him, he'd go, fuck that fucking asshole, I'm gonna fucking kill him, I'm gonna fucking wring his fucking throat. And it would particularly specifically now be towards males, because within the context of the memory in how this whole personality manifestation was manifested was kill the man. Now, all this human being's conscious mind thoughts will be inclined towards killing men. The more and more people start angering him or her, making them aggressive, reactive, triggering particular specific angers or aggressions, because within the context of the memory in the scene with the actor was angered, was triggered by this man that he was wanting to have be killed. So any man that now triggers this human being's points within anger or frustration or aggression, all his thoughts will now start being inclined towards killing. So the human being manifested themselves as that scene within the movie in its totality, and is now completely possessed within that one statement of kill the man. And why is the conscious mind thoughts now more and more going into, for example, when another human being angers them, frustrates them, makes them aggressive, where they would go, I'm going to fucking wring that fucker's neck until he fucking dies. Why would that happen is, for example, within the personality design manifestation of the subconscious mind, where all that unconscious mind information was filtered into and manifested into subconscious mind personality. That would be, for example, where they had seen a movie in their past where a man was busy strangling another man, and the mind consciousness system then filtered that information or that memory into the subconscious mind personality platform manifestation into the conscious mind domain as thought strands that can come through when the human being is triggered. So that such conscious mind thoughts within that personality manifestation can activate Backchat as internal conversation threads, where the Backchat then would go from I'm gonna fucking wring that fucker's neck to the Backchat going into I want to kill him, I want to kill him, I want to kill him, I want to kill him. And the internal conversations to expanding within how am I going to kill him, how would I kill him, feeling I want to feel my hands on his neck. And within that then the unconscious of that subconscious mind personality manifestation, where the human being would start physically becoming aggressive in making actual fists towards that human being that triggered them. And that is an example of a total personality demon possession manifestation that was created from just watching that scene within that movie, and that activated a resonance experience of ego to be more superior and more powerful, because the human being programmed their total mind consciousness system to the only way I can be powerful or superior is by and through being a killer. And that is how the human being created, manifested, programmed, and designed themselves into and as the actual point of manifesting, killing thoughts, Backchat, internal conversations, and reactions within themselves, even physical behaviors, as the tendency of killing. And if the human being does not stop themselves, that can take them over to such an extent where they will in fact kill someone. Maybe not that particular human that initially triggered them. Obviously it will take more and more and more of that such situations to accumulate for that personality that's initially just a system that only come up as conscious mind thoughts, internal Backchat, internal conversations, and physical reactions, to more and more integrate into the human physical body, the more and more he comes across and reacts to other human beings within that killing context, to the point where it builds up that energy of superiority and of power as ego to be superior, to be powerful to such an extent that it will drive them to kill. And that is how the mind consciousness system is then programmed. Alright, now just for a specific context in terms of the example that we've been using in terms of a movie scene where the actor manifests the particular superiority power stance of kill the man that resonate within the being's ego and superiority and power desire, and starts upgrading, programming, and manifesting itself to equalize in that stance, where the unconscious then bring up all the information of killing, memories, experiences, movies, even, for example, seeing as a young child their parents fighting, yelling and screaming would be excavated from unconscious mind memories, because that's another example of aggression, of superiority, of power, where the father was like taking that absolute stance of almost representing equal that stance of the actor, of that absolute power, superiority, like I've got the power to decide between life and death. And so therefore, remember, it's not the movies or the memories or what was seen in itself that is the cause, the problem, the source. We always have a tendency to want to blame and project what we accept and allow within ourselves onto and toward what exists within this world and this reality. Yes, in terms of what we have accepted and allowed ourselves to become as living examples for our children, as what is existent within movies, within magazines, within the media as a totality, in terms of representing, in fact, what it is that we accept and allow within ourselves. So remember, it's not the movies, it's not the games, it's not the living examples in itself that is the cause, problem, or source. Just taking that away is not going to solve the problem that is in fact the human being as what we accept and allow to exist within ourselves, which is the total mind consciousness system, the ego, the superiority, the competition, the survival, the very relationship within and as which we exist within ourselves and towards other human beings. So therefore the responsibility is within each and every single human being to observe the interaction of ourselves within ourselves towards our world and our reality, to stop our participation within the context of competition, ego, and superiority within the context of surviving, playing the game of survival of the fittest, and stopping the extremes to which we'll go to exert that superiority, that power onto and towards others, just so we can validate or justify our own status that we've created in our own ego, in our own mind consciousness system of being a God consciousness, which is in fact what we're doing. We're making the statement that I'm better than, I'm more than, I'm more superior than everything and everyone else here. I am right. I am justified. And within that, realize the extent to which such interaction and such starting points within ourselves can lead one or take one within one world and one reality if it is not stopped, directed, and sorted out. So realize in terms of why, for example, some human beings that movie scene will resonate with them within the context that I've explained and others not, is because in terms of how we are inclined or programmed within our mind consciousness systems within the context of ego is different. Meaning some human beings would exert their power, their superiority, their competition through intellect, where they would particularly, specifically diminish, run down, gossip, and experience vengeful thoughts towards others within the context of intellect by describing them to be stupid, morons, inferior, and go into that context of creating personality manifestations where one is the intelligence god within oneself and everyone else is less than and inferior than. And so their context will, for example, be more watching movies that would resonate with their own intelligence and validate their own intelligence and justify their intelligence and try and build up and accumulate more memories within their unconscious to build their personality manifestations of being superior, wise, and godlike in intellect. And that's why, in terms of how we interact within our reality, is always within the context of ourselves. So that responsibility always is taken back and brought back to self, where one must be able to watch a movie and have no reactions, where one is simply here breathing and observing and watching, and one can even utilize movies within being able to see and check and cross-reference for self, where within self one is using and abusing scenes to be able to program, create, and manifest one's own ego within the context of competition. So it does again go back to the killer point in how it is that that being thus create and manifest themselves into and towards the actual expression and act of killing. And one can even have a look at, for example, one see it on the internet when we are participating, for example, in YouTube, and many human beings can relate to that on all sites, where you have the anonymous comments within that violent, aggressive nature of making deliberate statements of go and kill yourself, or I will make sure that you're killed, or I will kill you, or I wish you would be killed, always. But what is very interesting is that the human being will always make those statements anonymously. And how even the internet today is in essence a platform, a manifestation that is facilitating that process of human beings developing, program, creating, and manifesting their personality manifestations into and towards that process of inclining themselves towards becoming actual killers. And what is furthermore specific to take note of within that context of doing it anonymously is how one manifests it within one's own mind consciousness system, where one's thoughts, backchat, internal conversations, reactions, physical behaviors within the context of killing, and the totality of that superiority, power, aggressive, violent stance is always done within the secret mind, secretly within oneself, where it will become an actual entity voice that starts speaking. So if one, for example, on YouTube, and you see these human beings speaking within the context of killing, killer, anonymously, what is actually in fact thus speaking is an already developed, manifested personality entity that is speaking through and as the being. So you must already know to what state their personality manifestation within their mind consciousness system is developed to be able to already write and speak such statements within the context of killing, and killer. And I mean, some human beings might say, but it's just that one time, it's just one statement. But you do not realize the amount of time that human being had spent on creating and manifesting themselves in their mind consciousness system to get themselves to that point of being able to write it or to speak it anonymously. And that's just to give a perspective on what such human beings in fact are within their manifested mind consciousness state, and to what extent their personality manifestation of their subconscious mind had already taken over within themselves. Because as we've explained, it is an extensive process that takes place for that to be able to manifest, because initially it just starts with one point that activates that ego tendency of superiority and godlike manifestation, and that through time, through the mind consciousness system taking that original moment, merging it with the being, integrating it to the unconscious, extracting all that information, moving it up into a subconscious mind personality manifestation from the subconscious mind, for that personality manifestation to integrate into the human physical body. First, I have to start with conscious mind thoughts then manifesting into backchat and internal conversations, where it goes from initially over accumulated events only going to, I want to kill you, I want to fucking kill you, to internal conversation, backchat thoughts, through more time as more people starts interacting with this human being, to, I'm going to kill you, through taking my hands across your neck and I fucking wring it till you could fucking breathe. That is an example of backchat, internal conversation. I mean, that takes time, sequences of events, accumulation to manifest to that extent. And then even more to go into actual physical action. So it's a time process. So just as a reference, to see, realize, and understand where such beings are within their processes, within their mind, and the problem and consequence they are in fact facing within themselves. And how it is within that we have accepted and allowed ourselves to live within the context of competition within our own mind consciousness system, where what we are in fact competing with is ourselves. We're always competing with ourselves to make ourselves more, to make ourselves better, to make ourselves more powerful, to be superior over and over again. One must really observe oneself in how one interacts with other human beings and where one's thoughts and backchat and internal conversations go. And one will realize that it almost immediately always go to making you superior and the other being inferior. And that in that we're actually using or abusing other human beings for us to become more powerful, more superior, and just be more than within ourselves. And where initially it can just start with conscious mind thoughts, to the extent where we manifest ourselves to the extent of killing other human beings, where another human being dies for us to validate and be and become superior, powerful, and more than. And how it is that we have not in fact been living in this world within our human physical bodies with each other within equality and oneness. All that we've been doing is in fact using and abusing each other for our own God status within ourselves. And that using and abusing is being portrayed within this world to the extent where other human beings are killing human beings for us to show to what extent and what we're in fact doing within ourselves, even just by thinking. Meaning we're equal to and one with responsible as that person killing another human being, as we're in fact doing it within our thoughts in killing another human being within ourselves through diminishing them, through making them less than, inferiorizing them so we can be more than. That energetic interplay competition that we're participating within ourselves is an internal representation of that external manifestation of another human being, one human being killing another human being, so that he or she can be more than, superior, godlike. It's exactly the same. So, in terms of assisting and supporting oneself within this manifested context of how it is that we are in fact using, abusing, and killing another human being within ourselves through making them less than, inferiorizing them, making ourselves into a God, consciousness, egotistical, superior, powerful, manifested being. And I mean, it can even manifest in the small, in how, for example, spiritual human beings superiorize themselves. God consciousness manifests themselves in that point of love and light and beauty and positivity, and how that internal backchat is created towards other human beings that are negative, that are bad, that are resonating bad, that are evil. Same exact interplay. All that they're doing is their mind consciousness system, their ego, their competition within themselves is inclined towards the fight between good and bad, light and darkness, and therefore the interplay is again exactly the same. So if you have the simple backchat or conscious mind thoughts towards another human being of a woman judging another woman's physical form, clothes, money, things like that, communicating to her within herself, like, I'm doing this and this and this to have my body look like this and that, I've got the money to have my clothes, and I'm definitely a lot more perfect than she is. How can she accept and allow herself to present herself in any way to society or other human beings? How can she allow that? And that is backchat in terms of making oneself more superior, where a person's ego, God consciousness, competition, manifestation of superiority is inclined towards money. Again, the same context. All of it is coming from and within the exact same manifested form of the mind consciousness system that exists in every single human being in this world. It just shows itself in various different ways. So our responsibility within ourselves is, when and as you are interacting with other human beings, to observe one's thoughts in one's conscious mind, one's backchat, internal conversations, one's reactions, one's physical behavior, and stop oneself from accepting and allowing oneself to deliberately abuse another human being only for self to be able to be more than superior within the context of ego, to compete within one's own mind consciousness system. Stop the competition. Start directing oneself and one's living to actual interaction with another human being, so that we can change this world where human beings actually interact and live with each other together, where we can learn, grow, and expand from each other, rather than living in absolute separation, self-interest, ego, and consciousness, where we are driving ourselves to the point of abusing each other to the extent of killing. And to do this, there is only self-forgiveness. There is only writing. There is only self. That is the only solution that exists within this existence for this point. To assist and support self, to be equal to and one with self, to be equal to and one with another. To write yourself out in terms of writing when, for example, you're facing human beings and that internal backchat, that conversations, those thoughts come up. If you're already at the point where it's gone within the example of killing, of aggression, of superiority, of power, in that extent where another will just tick you off and immediately your thoughts take you over, your backchat take you over, your physical is completely taken over. You've got to practice breathing in that moment. You've got to hold yourself, take a breath, breathe, remove yourself from that moment, meaning just turn around, walk away. Sometimes it's going to actually take physical strength to move through that possession, that energy, and move yourself out of that moment. Take that responsibility within yourself. Remind yourself that if you do not stop this, this is what the consequences is going to be in your life. Your life is going to end in this world. It's going to be done. You're not just ending another human being's life. You're also going to be done. So give yourself the opportunity to stop. You've got to sit yourself down with yourself. You've got to write that moment out. What was the thoughts that come up? What was the reaction within yourself? What did the human being activate within yourself? Just in a short description, write out the event and do the self-forgiveness. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed my thoughts to immediately jump to wanting to kill the man. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed the backchat to exist within me towards another human being of strangling their neck. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to initially react in anger and aggression towards that human being because I felt that they were making me feel inferior and I couldn't accept and allow that, so I had to assert my superiority, my ego, my manhood, and therefore I accepted and allowed my mind to go into killing him to exert my power. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed such thoughts to preoccupy my mind, my physical, my behavior, and my life. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see another human being as a human being. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to see them as a point through which I can assert my power, my superiority, and my ego through taking them in my mind to the point of killing them. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to abuse life, to transforming it into a point and competition of killing. And make your statements as specific and realization orientated as possible in terms of seeing, realizing, and understanding the consequence that one is in fact creating for self within accepting such thoughts, such backchat, internal conversations, and reactions. And then obviously, as you walk and participate in your world and your reality, and you're being ticked off, you've got to apply your self-corrective application. Remember, writing self-forgiveness is not enough. You've got to change within your realizations, become change. So when you get ticked off, immediately, I mean, it must be now a natural point of application, you immediately breathe. So it's like stepping in and stopping the mind, because in breathing and taking a breath, even if it is a hard in-breath, that's cool. You breathe it in and you let go. And sometimes the thoughts will still resonate in the background, but it won't be as extensive, because what you did was, instead of allowing the mind to step into that moment, you take a breath and you stepped in and said, no, I'm standing. And you do an out breath. Alright, and therefore, in terms of as one take that breath, you are stepping in and taking that moment within the human physical body and taking that directive principle of saying, I'm not accepting and allowing the mind to come through, I'm standing in this position and I'm taking charge. Meaning, taking charge from the perspective of, I'm not accepting and allowing my mind to control me, I'm stopping myself. And remember, because of the amount of time that one had spent in creating that personality manifestation, remember, it's a massive personality manifestation, because the unconscious mind extracted information from your total life in the context of killing, aggression, anger, power, superiority, and therefore it's going to be your responsibility to walk through your own unconscious mind, walk through your total life experience. You're going to have to go back as far as you can and have a look at memories that come up, pictures, remembrances, experiences, events, within the context of killing, superiority, power, aggression, and anger, and walk the self-forgiveness. Like, for example, let's say as you're walking your own history in relation to your unconscious mind to deprogram yourself out of this personality manifestation as killer, killing, and being killed, you've got to walk back into your own total history of your total life experience, because that total personality manifestation contains everything that you have accepted and allowed to manifest within yourself within that context. So let's say, for example, as you're walking your own history and you're looking at points within, for example, killer, killing, anger, aggression, and you remember that memory of your parents yelling at each other and your father taking your mother by the neck and shaking her and he's yelling. It's to have a look at the context of that memory, and you have a look self-honestly, what does that memory signify to you? And you remember, for example, that in that moment, that was how you remembered relationships to be in and towards, for example, females. And you've got to walk your self-forgiveness within, obviously, common sense that is not acceptable in terms of handling or treating another human being. And because you always have to use your cross-reference of the principle of equality in oneness and what's best for all, in treating other human beings equal to and one with how self would like to be participated with or experienced. So in terms of the principle of equality and oneness as what's best for all, in terms of interacting with another human being, is equal to and one with how self would interact with self, within the context of actually considering and regarding another human being and not one's own mind consciousness system of ego, superiority, competition, and survival. And then you walk your self-forgiveness. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to imprint the memory of my father taking my mother by the neck and yelling at her as the way to handle conflicting situations. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to accept and allow that memory imprint into myself as the acceptance and allowance of how to handle and keep another woman in place. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to question, to consider the acceptance and allowance of such interactions with and between human beings. And within that, I forgive myself that I didn't accept and allowed myself to speak up in that moment, but instead simply imprinted, accepted, and allowed it within me. That became a part of my interaction, my life within relationships. And within and through your self-forgiveness and your self-corrective applications, one will obviously then have to change one's interactions with human beings. And let's say, for example, where human beings would trigger that subconscious mind personality of kill, killer, and killing, one would thus breathe and simply understand that, for example, now one will see the human being that ticked you off within the context of, for example, their individual process. And one will be able to speak up in terms of making them aware of what it is that they're accepting and allowing. For example, speaking to them in a stable, constant voice, breathing here. Do you see what you're doing here? The consequences of your actions in yelling like that towards other human beings is unnecessary. I see that you have your own anger, your own problems, your own situations, but it's not necessary to take it out on other human beings. Or sometimes you just won't say anything because you'll see that you won't be able to in that moment, and you just breathe and you walk away, because they would be in such a possessive state that all you can do is just breathe and walk away, not throw back the ball, as we would have done within our subconscious mind personality, throwing the ball, playing the game within ourselves and each other, where the two would then be feeding off of each other to manifest their own ego, God consciousness, superiority, powerful manifestation. Okay, now we have walked the point of killer, killing, takeover, personality manifestation that happen. And it happens and manifests exactly the same with rapists or sexual abuse, or where human beings will take themselves to the point of forcing themselves onto other human beings. And if one have a look at especially young people today, there's an extensive amount of ego possession in terms of sex, sexuality, violence, physical expression, where, for example, in between and amongst friends, there is a more and more proliferation in sharing pornography, speaking about movies, video games, and things like that. Again, we're not saying that these things in itself are bad or are wrong. It is how the mind consciousness system within individual human beings are manifested, pre-programmed, and designed, and how it is that we use and abuse what is here for and within the purpose of the mind consciousness system. Simply using the main primary examples of how we create, program, and manifest. I mean, females across the world are doing it simply with the women's magazines, in how we're imprinting that information into ourselves, into our egos, into our mind consciousness systems, where we take fashion, where we take accessories, where we take makeups from what we're seeing in magazines, imprint it into ourselves, communicate conscious mind thoughts, going into internal backchat, internal conversations, wanting to be like that, wanting to look like that, and then eventually manifest it into the unconscious, extracting all our information, and then eventually try and manifest ourselves into a personality manifestation of representing that which we had seen within the magazines. It's the same that happens. And again, it's not the magazines, it's who we are in relationship to and towards what we see. So, for example, with young people, the point of manifesting, for example, oneself as a rapist, molestation, or just a tendency towards forcing oneself sexually onto or towards another, is, let's say, for example, a person heard their friend speak and they're standing in a group and he overheard them communicating about and seeing all these pictures in a pornographic magazine, and their friends are going, I would fuck that girl, she looks so fuckable, I just want to fuck that ass, I want to really go for it and give it up in that ass, I want to fuck her, fuck that girl. And this guy or girl, this human being, overheard that context of that statement and manifested that memory of fuck that girl into and as the human being, and it manifested, and their tendency and their desire within ego towards being popular, being accepted within a particular group, that would then again resonate that memory within themselves, within the conscious mind, fuck that girl, fuck that girl, fuck that girl. That statement would resonate within the being's conscious mind throughout their human physical body, and more start integrating an experience of superiority and power into and as that statement, fuck that girl, to be equal to and one with the initial person that said the statement, and they speak it more and more, and the more they speak it within themselves or participate in it, they start communicating with the group and chanting with them, yes, I'd fuck that up, that ass, I want to fuck that girl, she looks fuckable, yeah, I want to fuck her, let's fuck that girl. And then eventually it goes into the unconscious mind, so first from the conscious mind as it is repeated more and more, and it merges with the being's resonance, with their total mind consciousness system, and it manifests an entity. That entity of the human being goes into the unconscious mind. From the unconscious mind, it brings that human being's memories, history, life experience in relation to fucking, girl, sex, porn, bringing everything up. The being then within, for example, masturbation, starts masturbating, conscious mind, thoughts, memories, manifestations, fantasies starts coming up within the context of fucking, fuck that girl, porn, everything. And as he's masturbating, or he or she's masturbating, as the human masturbates, they just start speaking that, I want to fuck that girl, I'm going to fuck it up the ass, yeah. And that energy of that total personality starts manifesting and integrating into the human physical body. And so that being starts creating, integrating, and manifesting that total personality from the unconscious that's now manifested into the personality manifestation in the subconscious, manifested into an actual conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind self that has conscious mind thoughts, subconscious mind backchat, internal conversations, and physical behaviors in relation to that initial statement of fuck that girl, fuck it, I'm gonna fuck it, and everything and all of sexuality that come up within that context. So in terms of rapists, for example, their primary integration of personality systems that assist and support with that process for the mind consciousness system to integrate that personality is through masturbation and through interacting with other women, where the more and more they participate in conscious mind thoughts, it goes to, I want to fuck that girl, I'd fuck that girl, I wonder how I'd experience to fuck that girl up the ass with that or that, ooh, she looks like she's got a fuckable ass. And that's how the conscious mind thoughts start coming up. As that personality manifestation starts integrating more and more into the mind consciousness system, and then it goes into internal backchat all the time, where their total voice speaks within themselves in relation to another human being, or women or females in the world in reality. It's a constant voice that speaks. And remember, this is the same within the context of the killer. It is an actual voice that starts speaking within themselves as a conscious voice. It's like another you speaking inside yourself, exactly like I'm speaking here with you. It's an actual communication. And within the context of the killer, for example, the being will have voices speaking in their head. You should go and kill that man. You should go and kill that man. Go and kill him. I must kill him. How do I want to kill him? What will be best? And the more and more those voices start speaking, the more and more the human being starts interacting, changing, and doing. The same with sex, sexuality within the context of the rapist. The voices start speaking more and more as the human beings start growing up and interacting with females, with that group, with the images, with the pictures, with the masturbation. It more and more starts integrating. The actual voices start speaking. Like, I want to fuck this girl. I want to fuck her now. I must fuck her now. I want to fuck her. I want to fuck her like this. I have to. Okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get her? I can't go speak to her. I'm too afraid. I just have to fuck her. And then that voice starts taking over to the extent where they would grab the human being, get themselves into an isolated area, and fuck them, as the voice spoke with them in their mind consciousness system. And it'll be a fucking, like it is that initial statement was speaking within themselves from that initial memory point. It'll take them over completely. So the basic structural platform that the mind consciousness system use within the context of these extents in relation to sexual abuse and physical abuse, sexual killing, physical killing. I mean, in terms of raping, it is an actual form of killing another human being, in raping and stripping and removing them from the total beingness that they are as a human being. So sex in itself is another form of killing, and with sex within that context. And so assisting and supporting oneself in facing this particular point where one's total mind consciousness system is possessed within that personality of rape. I mean, that's the context of your thoughts already. The rapist is simply a manifest consequence of already thoughts, backchat, internal conversations, and reactions that was already in the context of rape. I mean, if you look at the thoughts, the fantasies, everything that comes up during the masturbation, it is a manifested rape that happens because one is completely exerting one's power, one's superiority, one's dominance over another human being without agreement, without consent, without communication, without interaction, without a relationship actually forming. And therefore everything will accumulate into the being becoming the manifestation of those thoughts. So if your thoughts are currently to that extent and that extreme, where you're in essence having sex with human beings within one's mind consciousness system, within simply just seeing them, with interacting with them, it's going to take a process of assisting and supporting oneself to stop oneself. You're going to have to assert your discipline in breathing. When the thoughts come up, you breathe in the breath, you release them, you release yourself, you make sure that your focus is on your physical, practical reality. So if you want to go do shopping, initially assist and support yourself to place your focus of your eyes only towards where you're walking. Be observant of the tendency of moving one's eyes towards other human beings. And it's the same within the context of the killer. I mean, you've got to look at where your thoughts are going. Sometimes you would deliberately ignite other human beings to start a brawl, a fight, or something like that, through having internal conversations and backchat within oneself, where, for example, one can say, hey, that guy looked at me funny. And then one can drive oneself to that point of justifying or validating an action of aggression or physical abuse. The same with sex, where one will see one is deliberately moving one's eyes towards other human beings to generate, charge, and manifest that subconscious mind personality. So as you're walking, focus your eyes, discipline your breathing, and you're going to have to walk this process through with writing, self-forgiveness, self-corrective application. And why is it that only self-forgiveness, self-writing, self-corrective application, self-honesty, self-responsibility is the only solution within this existence? It is the only solution that walk one and take one back to self, within equality and oneness with one's human physical body, to walk out of the mind into the physical, to actually stop the total mind consciousness system and walk here within one's human physical body. It is the only key, the only access to self. Everyone can see that total focus, we always say self first. You walk your self-forgiveness, you walk your self-honesty, you walk your self-writing, your self-application, your self-responsibility. It is manifested practical tools within the context of opening the doors within self to self. Any and every other solution in this world, in this reality, has always had its context and its starting point limited to and within and as only the mind consciousness system. Simply changing perceptions, simply suppressing, simply altering, molding, changing or transforming what is already here within the mind consciousness system. It has never gotten to that point of you have to stop the totality of the mind consciousness system to change, to get to self. And that is what self-forgiveness, writing, self-corrective application, self-responsibility do. And we challenge you, for those that whose ego, again, step in and come in terms of superiority, God consciousness, exertion of power, to walk this process self-honestly for self, self-forgiveness, self-writing, and walking that process of actual stopping the totality of one's mind consciousness system. So within, for example, the sexual point, if your thoughts are completely possessed with just sex, it's going to be a process. Do not be hard on yourself. Do not judge yourself. That's just going to create unnecessary time loops. Take it slow, take it easy, but assert and discipline yourself to stop yourself. You know now to what extent this can take you if you do not stop. And you're creating it. That voice that is speaking, that's having a conversation with you like an actual another being that's inside you, you created. You've got to walk yourself back to how the fuck you created that in the first place so you can stop yourself. So you've got to walk back in terms of having a look at how you have, in essence, perverted sex, sexuality, and females within your total, or males. I mean, if you're male or female walking this point, it's exactly the same. You've got to have a look at the nature of your thoughts, the backchat, the internal conversations, the reactions that you're having towards human beings. You can, for example, start with initial events that's most prominent, where you walked in a shopping mall in the day and you saw this woman with this massive boobs, this short white t-shirt, red mini skirt, high heels, and your mind was just running amok. Walk that or such initial big events that had an impact on you in your day that really took your mind over. Walk your writing, write out the event, write out the trigger points. What did you experience? What was the energies? What was the reactions? Do your self-forgiveness. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to look at that woman within the context of her breasts so as to stimulate my tendency towards my fantasies to be able to access my energy rush experience of fucking her or having sex with her for and within myself for my own pleasure. And within that, I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to consider her as another human being that is individually walking within this world. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to use and abuse that woman for my own personal interests as fantasies, in and as which I've in fact abused, raped and fucked her within myself as an image, and within that accepted and allowed myself to manifest an extensive separation between myself and another human being, just so that I can get off in manifesting superiority, power and competition within myself to exert my manhood, to be accepted. And then you walk your self-corrective application. When you, for example, see a woman with the breasts, with the butt, with the thighs, with the hair, with whatever it is that you accepted and allowed to manifest that turning you on point, you breathe and you can say out loud within yourself, you breathe, stop, and immediately move your eyes, walk and face towards you, put your chin up and move and walk towards the direction of what it is that you're wanting to go and get in the place or area where you've been wanting to go. And I mean, if you're on the computer with yourself, again, it's going to be discipline. That is the most difficult point for many, is when they're alone with themselves. You've got to then get yourself a constructive hobby, in terms of making sure that you have something to pay and transfer or move your focus and attention towards, that is not fucking yourself with the mind, but actually benefiting towards your process of assisting and supporting yourself to stop. And within this all, we strongly suggest walking Destiny Eye process, where we take you through the whole mind consciousness system. What are thoughts? What's backchat? What's internal conversations? What's energies? What's emotions? What's feelings? Then the next phase, where you walk actual mind constructs, which is where you are with a buddy facilitated in the process to walk your timeline and your history of how it is that you created personality manifestations. Then we go into next phases in terms of how it is that we actually accumulate thoughts, memories, experiences and pictures through and within interactions with other human beings, to play that game of competition, how it is in detail that we do what we do and manifest ourselves in what we are and who we are. And the Destiny Eye process is there to facilitate one in assisting and supporting oneself in that process, and is strongly suggested if you are already in that extreme, extensive, possessive state, as we had described in these video interviews. You still have a chance to make a difference in your life. Take it. Do not let it go so far as where you have to manifest that regret of taking yourself too far. You obviously do not have control over yourself. Otherwise, you would have stopped. With Destiny Eye process, we assist and support you to have that directive principle, to stop yourself, to change yourself. Take your life in your hands. Take responsibility. It is only us human beings within ourselves that can change ourselves. We have the answer. The answer is you. We have the process, the structure, the manifestations and the applications to assist and support you in living that answer that is you. Self-forgiveness, writing, self-corrective application. And Destiny Eye process is a facility that assists and support within the totality of that process. Thank you very much.